When you think about what really determines a society's future, what comes to mind? Is it the economy, politics, maybe technology? Well, the source material we're digging into today has a different and maybe more powerful answer. It argues that it all boils down to one thing: the education of its women. So let's dive into this idea. Right off the bat, our source hits us with this really provocative statement. It's a bold claim, isn't it? The idea that the progress, the stability, even the whole character of a nation is directly tied to the women within it. This one sentence is pretty much the foundation for everything else we're about to unpack. Okay, so if that statement is true, we have to take a hard look at the current reality. Our source points to a major challenge in India's educational landscape. And it's not just described as a problem, it's framed as a crisis that's holding the entire nation back. Now, this is where it gets really stark. According to the text, the general state of education in India is described as dismal. That's already pretty bad. But then, when the focus shifts specifically to women's education, the verdict is even more dismal. So the source is basically saying this isn't just a small gap. It's a massive chasm, and it has profound consequences for absolutely everyone. And this brings us right to the core argument. This isn't just about one person's opportunity. It's about progress for the whole group. The source argues that investing in a woman's education is probably the single most effective way to lift up an entire community. And if you neglect it, you're not just holding one person back. You're creating negative effects that ripple down through generations. So what actually happens when women are left behind educationally? Well, the source lays out this really clear and kind of concerning chain of events. It all starts at home, right? With poor education and health for the kids. That leads to a home environment that's not as positive, a failure to teach those basic good habits. And what's the end result? You get a society that just doesn't have the disciplined, capable citizens it needs to really thrive. Okay, but what happens if we flip that all around? Let's look at the positive side of this coin. The very first and most immediate impact you see from educating a woman is on her children. This is that first powerful ripple that starts to spread out. Think about it. An educated mother becomes the first and most important teacher a child will ever have. She's the one providing that crucial early education, setting the foundation for good values and morals, and putting in place the healthy daily habits that are going to shape a child for their entire life. These are the building blocks of a good citizen. And the source argues no one does it better than an educated mom. And this is where you see the long-term payoff. The work an educated mother does inside the home doesn't just stay there. It ripples out into society as her children grow up to be well-adjusted, disciplined, and productive citizens. They become the very foundation of a stronger nation. All right, let's follow this out to the next ripple. I love this part because our source uses this really cool and modern analogy to completely reframe how we think about a woman's role in the home. It's not just domestic, it's more like executive leadership. So, to get this, we first have to see the household in a totally new light. Don't just think of it as a home. Think of it like a small company. It's a complex organization with budgets, logistics, human resources, and, long-term goals. And in this company, who's the CEO? According to the source, women are. They are the chief executive officers running the whole show, managing everything from finances and healthcare to the long-term strategic plan for the family's future. They are, essentially, in charge of whether the whole organization succeeds or fails. This question just drives the point home, doesn't it? I mean, if the CEO of any business lacked a good education, couldn't see the big picture, and couldn't make informed decisions, what would happen to that business? We all know the answer. It would struggle or even fail. The source applies that exact same logic to the household. So let's take this whole idea to its biggest, broadest conclusion. When you have educated kids coming out of well-run households that are led by these educated CEOs, all those individual ripples start to combine. They form a massive wave that has the power to transform an entire nation. Now, the source makes a really important distinction here about the type of knowledge we're talking about. On one hand, you have traditional knowledge, stuff that's passed down through generations. But on the right, you have formal education. And that's what gives women a much broader understanding of the world. Things like world events, social change, economics, which lets them navigate and contribute to modern society. And that wider understanding leads directly to better decision-making. Educated women are just better equipped to make logical, meaningful choices, not just for their families, but for their whole communities. They become these agents of positive change, helping build a society that's more civilized, more prosperous, and always looking forward. So all of this, the impact on kids, the leadership in the home, the building of a nation, it all brings us to one last really essential question that kind of ties everything we've talked about together. After following this entire ripple effect from one person to a whole country, the source leaves us with this final thought. It's a question, really. Where does the true transformation of a society actually begin? And the implication from everything we've just seen is pretty clear. It doesn't start in government buildings or in corporate boardrooms. It starts in a classroom with the education of a single girl, creating a ripple that eventually can change the entire world.